Hi, I'm Christy. I want to talk to you today about one possibility for work for AJ. I started this post this week by saying to work or not to work. That is the question. But really, it's more like, when's the best time for AJ to start working? And here's one of the options that we're working with. Now, last year, I was strongly encouraged to open a case with the Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation, or the BVR. And being the dutiful non-wave maker, we did it. Now, the BVR is an organization in our area that works for retraining people if they have employment and need to be retrained for any issues. But they also work with young adults who are just entering the workforce or need extra help. And it's a relatively new organization in our area. And so they've had to work out some of the quirks when they're working specifically with those with special needs. But it appears they're starting to get things figured out, and our experience has actually been fairly positive. Now, as usual, the whole process starts by filling out forms. Surprise, surprise. And yes, I do fully mean all of that sarcasm. Fortunately, these forms were not difficult. It was just one of those annoying times that it just takes to write everything out. Now, I was able to return the forms to school with AJ, and they gave him to his teacher, and his teacher was then able to return them to the representative from BVR who works with this school. She comes in fairly frequently and has regular contact with AJ's teacher, and I'm sure some of the other special ed teachers as well. The next step was to have an intake interview with AJ. Fortunately, again, we were able to schedule this at school, and I was able to attend. I sat back and tried to do everything I could to let AJ answer the questions on his own. And the gal that was doing the interview was really good about asking them in ways that he understood the question. Well, for the most part anyway. And he actually answered the questions to the best of his ability. I was really impressed with him. I'm glad I was there, if for no other reason to know what happened. But the whole thing was fairly simple and straightforward. Then, when that was done, she went back to her office and created an individual plan for employment, or an IPE. When she was done with it, she sent me a copy. One of the things that was interesting was she made kind of a big deal just because she uses an IPE, an individual plan for employment, but she pointed out that it's different than what we have at school, which is an IEP, or an individualized education plan. So she was very clear to make the distinction between the two. Now, the third step in this process was the work assessment. I discussed this in a blog earlier this fall. I linked to it in this week's blog, which you can find at www.havenofhopeforme.com. This originally posted in November of 2018. We decided to wait to complete the assessment until this summer because it would have the least impact on AJ's schedule. The assessment is officially 20 days of 4 hours a day. Now, up until this, all the stories I had heard was that everybody completed the assessment at Goodwill. Now, we already knew that this wasn't the best fit for AJ. He had some experience during the last school year there, and it just wasn't a good fit. His teacher said it was like putting a square peg in a round hole. But that was what we had heard of, so we were going to do the best we could with it. The other thing that I had heard was that none of the students who had done an assessment lasted the full 20 days. In fact, most of them didn't even make it through the first week. So I wasn't really sure what to expect with AJ, but it was kind of nice to have an idea that this might or might not be a good thing. Over the summer, though, I discovered that we have other options besides just Goodwill. Ooh, well, what are these options? So our caseworker sent me the list, and I started looking through it. I discovered that there was at least one option that was in a custodial department. Ooh, this would be a much better fit for AJ. We knew he liked custodial work already, so I pursued that. In the end, I was able to get something lined up that had him work in the custodial department at an organization that works with adults with special needs in our area. It seemed like the perfect fit. Now, unfortunately, I waited a little bit too late into the summer to get all the pieces to fall into place, and so we weren't able to finish until after school started. Now, in my defense, I also didn't expect it to take 2 full weeks from the day we did the intake interview until he was actually able to start. But we got all the pieces into place, and AJ started off. Long story short, it was a smashing success, beyond our wildest dreams. AJ thoroughly enjoyed himself every day. He looked forward to going. He learned a lot of new skills, and he actually lasted the full 20 days. His teacher said he's the first student he's aware of that actually finished the full assessment. And I fully believe that that's because we got something that was a really good fit for him. I was finally able to receive a final copy of the final report by email. It took about 2 months because I had trouble tracking down our caseworker. Whole nother long story there. But I have it now, and I just need to sit down and read through it. So once we get this, or now that we have this, we have a few options. One of our options is to see about possibly looking for a part-time job after school for him. And we might pursue that. We'll have to see. If we decide not to do that, I think we actually have two options. We can either put a pause on his account or on his case until he's ready to actually look for a job. Or we can close it and then reopen it when he is ready to look for a job. So I'm not sure exactly which way we're going to go yet, but it is nice to know that we have these options, and overall our experience with them has been fairly positive. So my question for you this week is this: have you had to find a job for your loved one? If so, how did you go about finding it? Was it a positive experience? I'd love to hear your comments. You can leave me a comment below, or you can leave me a comment over on the blog, again at www.havenofhopeforme.com. I'd also appreciate it if you would share this with anybody you think would find it helpful. I'd love to help as many families as possible. If you want to sign up for my email list, this will make sure that you find out about all the pieces to this transition process, as well as finding about other new content as it comes out. I strive to only send things that I think you'll find helpful, beneficial, or useful. I am so grateful to know that AJ will eventually be able to find a job, and I'm very thankful that I can say that life is good and there is never a dull moment.